Of all the dynamics that reveal whether a man is truly invested in you or simply using you, one of the most glaring signs is where he places his priorities. If a man is primarily concerned with his own needs, be they emotional, physical, financial, or even superficial social validation, at the consistent expense of your well-being, you have to be willing to confront a difficult but necessary truth. He is not in this relationship to build something meaningful. He is in it to extract what serves him and to abandon what requires real sacrifice. Now, why does this happen psychologically? At its root, using another person is a profound act of dehumanization. It is the refusal to recognize the other as an end in themselves, seeing them instead as a mere means to a personal end. The philosopher Immanuel Kant argued this in his categorical imperative, that to treat another human being merely as a means is to violate the very dignity that makes relationships possible. In other words, love demands that we care about the other's flourishing as a good in itself, not as a function of our own pleasure or convenience. A man who is using you will not orient his behavior toward your flourishing. He may simulate affection when it suits him. He may know all the right words, the gestures, the timing, but these moments will almost always be tied to what he stands to gain. Pay attention. Is his affection consistent when you are struggling? Is his interest as strong when you have needs that require effort, patience, or sacrifice from him? Or does he pull away, become irritable, suddenly too busy, and blame you for being too much or too needy? It's important to understand too that prioritizing his needs does not always look harsh or aggressive. Often it can be wrapped in charm, it can look like flattery, it can feel like validation. But if you dig just a little below the surface, you'll find that what's being validated is not your intrinsic worth, but the role you play in gratifying his ego, his body, his ambitions. When your needs begin to interfere with the smooth functioning of his agenda, his true nature will emerge. From a psychological perspective, this is also tied to a lack of genuine attachment development. Healthy attachment is characterized by mutual responsiveness. There's a give and take, a natural rhythm of care. In contrast, an individual who uses others often operates from a more avoidant or dismissive attachment style. They crave the benefits of connection, comfort, pleasure, status, without the vulnerability or accountability that true intimacy demands. This is why it's crucial to watch what he does, not merely what he says. Words are cheap. Real priority is shown in action, especially when it costs him something. Does he show up for you when it's inconvenient? Does he put your feelings on equal footing with his own? Does he demonstrate through his choices that he sees your pain, your dreams, your humanity, and responds to it with care? You must be courageous enough to observe the reality rather than the fantasy. Because the temptation, especially when we are deeply emotionally invested, is to rationalize, to make excuses, to hang on to the words and ignore the actions. But love without respect is not love. Attention without care is not love. Desire without sacrifice is not love. And if a man is unwilling to subordinate his impulses in service of your well-being, if he will not choose inconvenience, discomfort, even personal loss when it is required to honor you, you must be willing to see it for what it is. He is not building a relationship. He is consuming you. In the end, it comes down to this. Love is not merely a feeling. It is a pattern of behavior that consistently says, your well-being matters to me even when it costs me. If you are not seeing that pattern, you are not seeing love. You are seeing use dressed up as affection. Another critical indicator that a man may be using you is his pattern of emotional inconsistency. And it's vital to understand that emotional inconsistency is not just a minor personality quirk. It is, at its core, a profound relational instability that creates confusion, dependency, and often a deep internalized sense of unworthiness in the one on the receiving end. Think about it this way. Stable emotional availability forms the backbone of trust. It creates a predictable, safe environment where intimacy can grow. Inconsistent emotional behavior, hot 1 minute, cold the next, attentive for a week, distant for 2, erodes that trust like acid. It forces the mind and heart into a constant state of uncertainty. And uncertainty, psychologically speaking, is deeply addictive. Human beings, much like the rats in B.F. Skinner's famous experiments with variable reinforcement, become more attached to sources of intermittent reward than they do to consistent, predictable ones. Now, if you find yourself questioning day after day, does he really care? Or analyzing his every word and action to decode hidden meanings, you are already caught in a psychological loop that favors his position of control. He becomes the arbiter of your emotional security, and because he doles it out unpredictably, you chase it harder. You try to earn it. You invest more, not because he's giving you more, but because he's giving you less. This is one of the most devastating, subtle ways that exploitation operates under the guise of romance. And here's where the philosophical dimension emerges. Emotional inconsistency in a relationship violates the moral responsibility we have to one another to be trustworthy, to be reliable. In any relationship worthy of the name, there is a sacred agreement, spoken or unspoken, that says, I will not treat your heart as a playground for my whims. When a man is emotionally inconsistent, he is essentially placing his momentary moods, distractions, or selfish desires above that moral obligation. He is telling you by his actions that your sense of emotional safety is negotiable, expendable, a secondary concern to his own impulses. It is crucial, therefore, to step back and observe. Does his affection ebb and flow with his needs rather than yours? Does he seek you out fervently when he's lonely, needy, or bored, but vanish when you express a need for connection, clarity, or support? Does he make promises he doesn't keep, offer apologies without meaningful change, or show empathy only when it's convenient? Understand, a man who values you will work toward emotional consistency, even when it is inconvenient, because he knows that love is not just a feeling, it is a discipline. It requires showing up, especially when the initial fires of passion cool into the steady, sometimes mundane, but essential flames of commitment. If a man does not demonstrate that discipline, if he allows his affections to be governed by convenience or caprice, he is not building a foundation with you. He is using you as an emotional placeholder, a comfort when it suits him and a burden when it does not. You must be willing to name this pattern for what it is. You must be willing to choose stability over the seductive chaos of inconsistency, because you are not a puzzle to be figured out, a challenge to be conquered, or a background character in someone else's drama. You are a human being worthy of steady, honest, and reliable love. In the end, emotional inconsistency is not an accident. It is a form of neglect, and you must decide whether you are willing to live at the mercy of someone else's neglect, or whether you will stand firmly on the ground of your own worth and walk away from those who cannot meet you there. Because if a man cannot offer you emotional consistency, he is not offering you love. He is offering you confusion dressed up as passion. And no matter how intoxicating that may feel in the moment, confusion is not and will never be the foundation of a life worth living. Another unmistakable sign that a man may be using you is that he only reaches out when he wants something, be it attention, comfort, validation, or even material support. Now, this pattern is deceptively simple on the surface, but reveals something far deeper and more troubling when we examine it through a psychological and philosophical lens. At the heart of a genuine relationship lies mutuality. Both individuals give and receive in a relatively balanced rhythm. Not perfectly, of course. Human beings are messy and love isn't a ledger. But there is an implicit understanding that each person's needs and boundaries matter. When a man only contacts you when he wants something, he is fundamentally violating this principle. He's not relating to you as a whole person with your own inner life, desires, and limits. He's relating to you as an instrument, something to be picked up, used, and then set aside when no longer immediately gratifying. From a psychological standpoint, this is a form of objectification, and it is incredibly easy to rationalize. You might tell yourself, he's just busy, or he doesn't know how to ask for help, or he wouldn't reach out if he didn't care at all. But rationalizations are often a way to shield ourselves from painful truths. The deeper truth is this: when someone's pattern consistently reveals that their engagement with you is driven by their needs and not by a desire to know, understand, or support you, you are not in a relationship. You are in a transaction. And it's important to notice what this dynamic does to you. It trains you, often subtly, to stay alert for his calls or texts, to prioritize his needs the moment they arise, to tie your own worth to whether or not he happens to require something you can provide. It seduces you into measuring your value through the distorted lens of utility, rather than through the steady mirror of mutual affection and respect. Over time, you lose touch with your own needs because you become so conditioned to react to his. Philosophically, this touches on one of the oldest questions. What does it mean to love another person? Love is not simply wanting someone when it's convenient. Love is wanting the good of the other for their own sake. If a man only shows up when he wants something, he is not loving you. He is leveraging you. There is a profound difference between the two. It is also important to recognize the subtle power dynamic at play here. The one who controls the terms of contact, who decides when and how the relationship is activated, wields a quiet but potent authority. If you allow yourself to be drawn into this dynamic repeatedly, you are tacitly affirming that his needs are primary and yours are secondary. You are accepting a subordinate role in a relationship that should ideally be a partnership of equals. So how do you respond to this recognition? You must establish a radical commitment to your own dignity. You must be willing to say, internally, if not always aloud, I am not here to be summoned. I am not here to fill your voids. I am here to build a life alongside someone who sees me not merely as a convenience, but as a companion. The temptation will be to wait, to hope that if you give enough, if you are accommodating enough, he will finally recognize your worth. But a man who only values you when he needs something has already revealed how he sees you. And your task is not to change his perception. It is to trust what he has shown you and to act accordingly. So at the heart of a genuine relationship is reciprocity, an ongoing dance between giving and receiving, between speaking and listening, between understanding and being understood. When a man is truly committed to you, he seeks to know you deeply. He listens not merely as a courtesy, but with the intent to comprehend your inner world. Your happiness matters to him not because it benefits him directly, but because your well-being is intrinsically valuable to him. But when a man is using you, he relates to you primarily as a means to an end. He sees you through the lens of what you can provide: attention, affection, validation, physical intimacy, status. And when your role slips outside those confines, when you express a need that does not immediately serve his agenda, you are met with indifference, impatience, or even subtle resentment. Your words float in the air, unacknowledged. Your emotions are brushed aside or minimized. Your individuality becomes an inconvenience. Psychologically, this kind of one-sided dynamic creates a slow erosion of self. It's not usually dramatic. It's a quiet, gradual thing, a sense that your voice matters less, that your needs are somehow less urgent, that your feelings are negotiable while his are absolute. And the tragedy is that many people, when faced with this imbalance, don't immediately withdraw. Instead, they try harder. They give more, hoping that if they can only meet all his needs perfectly, he will finally turn toward them with the same level of devotion. But that is a dangerous illusion. Relationships built on utility are never satisfied by greater sacrifice. The more you give to a person who is only taking, the more they will take, and the more invisible you will feel. If you find yourself consistently bending around a man's needs, if your life with him feels like a monologue where you are merely a supporting character in the story of his existence, recognize the profound violence being done to your personhood. Understand that you are not failing because you cannot make him care. You are recognizing a reality that was there all along. Another sign that a man is using you, and this one is particularly insidious because it can be so easily rationalized away, is that he rarely, if ever, makes any real effort to know you deeply. Now, this isn't about him knowing your favorite color or how you like your coffee. It's about something much more profound. Whether he shows a genuine, sustained curiosity about who you are at your core. your values, your dreams, your fears, your history, your soul. When a man truly values you, he will seek to understand you, because understanding is the gateway to intimacy. Real intimacy is not merely physical, it's psychological, emotional, and even spiritual. It's the willingness to explore the vast and complex territory that makes you uniquely you. A man who sees you as someone worthy of investment will ask questions that matter. He'll listen, not just to respond, but to comprehend. He'll remember the small things because they are the building blocks of genuine connection. By contrast, a man who is using you has little interest in plumbing those depths. His attention is transactional. His conversations with you hover at the surface, rarely venturing into anything that requires vulnerability, patience, or emotional labor. You'll notice it if you pay attention. He doesn't ask follow-up questions when you share something meaningful. He forgets details that are important to you. When you talk about your aspirations, your struggles, your triumphs, his response is perfunctory at best and dismissive at worst. In short, he's not investing in you because he doesn't see you as someone worth investing in. And here's the trap. You might start working harder to compensate for this lack of attention. You share more, you open up more, you try to give him more access to your inner world, hoping that if you're just vulnerable enough, just patient enough, he'll finally be moved to see you fully. But this effort often backfires because emotional availability cannot be coerced or extracted. It must be freely given. If it is not, then every act of emotional generosity you offer simply drains you without refilling you. Philosophically, we have to recognize that being seen, truly seen, is not a luxury in a relationship. It is a necessity. Human beings are not designed to live at the surface. We crave connection, recognition, and mutual understanding. To offer yourself to someone who refuses to see you is to participate in a slow erosion of your own self-worth. Over time, you begin to doubt the legitimacy of your own needs. You start to question whether wanting to be known is asking for too much. Let me be clear, it is not. It is asking for exactly the minimum required for love to thrive. At a psychological level, when you stay in a dynamic where you are not known, you unconsciously internalize the belief that your depth is a burden, that your complexity is too much. This belief can follow you far beyond the relationship itself, affecting your self-esteem and your capacity to form healthy connections in the future. Protecting your inner world means guarding it against those who do not approach it with reverence. So, pay attention to the man's curiosity or lack thereof. True interest manifests as attention, patience, and a hunger to understand. It is not something you have to demand. It flows naturally when real affection is present. If a man is not asking to know your heart, he does not deserve to hold it. You owe it to yourself to be with someone who looks at you and says, not just with their words, but with their actions, I want to know everything about you. Not because I have to, but because knowing you is its own reward. Never settle for less than that. Your soul is not a convenience store for someone else's needs. It is a cathedral, and it should only be entered by those willing to remove their shoes. Another clear and painful sign that a man is using you is when he disappears the moment things get difficult, when life introduces challenges, be it personal struggles, family issues, career setbacks. You quickly realize whether someone is truly committed or merely along for the ride when it's easy and convenient. It's one thing for someone to enjoy the sweetness of your company when everything is smooth sailing. It's another thing entirely for them to stand with you when the storm hits. Difficulty acts as a crucible for all relationships. It burns away the superficial and exposes the core. A man who is invested in you will not vanish when you are no longer fun or easy to be around. He will not withhold his presence when you need support, nor will he shrink back when the relationship demands patience, sacrifice, or a deeper level of emotional engagement. In fact, challenge is often what strengthens authentic bonds. Struggles, when navigated together, deepen trust and intimacy. They are not a threat to true love, they are a proving ground for it. But when a man is using you, challenges become an inconvenience he quickly distances himself from. His emotional involvement is contingent on your ability to maintain a certain image. Happy, sexy, low mandatory. The moment you show vulnerability, the moment you reveal that you are a full human being with needs, fears, and difficulties, he checks out. You'll notice it first subtly. He'll He'll respond less, offer vague excuses, seem increasingly impatient or disinterested, and then sometimes without warning, he'll simply vanish, ghosting you emotionally or even physically. Psychologically speaking, this pattern is devastating because it touches a primal fear that many people carry, the fear of being abandoned in their time of need. It reinforces a dangerous idea that love must be earned through perpetual perfection, that you must suppress your own struggles to be deemed worthy of affection. That belief, once internalized, leads to self-alienation. You no longer feel safe being yourself, even within your closest relationships. From a philosophical standpoint, it's critical to recognize that real commitment is not about constant pleasure or perpetual harmony. It's about standing witness to another person's life, their triumphs and their tragedies, and choosing to stay. Love is not merely an emotion, it is a series of decisions made daily to honor another person's existence, even when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. If a man disappears when life gets hard, he is telling you something fundamental about his character. He is telling you that he values the benefits of being with you more than he values you as a person. And that is not love. It's utility masked as affection. Do not let the pain of his absence convince you that you asked for too much. Needing support is not weakness. Expecting someone to stand by you is not unreasonable. It is, in fact, the very definition of relational integrity. You deserve to be with someone who sees hardship not as a reason to run, but as a sacred opportunity to be there for you. Someone who recognizes that loving someone is not always easy and embraces that fact as part of the richness of human connection. Someone who chooses you, especially when the choice costs something. So if a man withdraws when life challenges you, do not chase him. Do not diminish your reality to make yourself more palatable. See his disappearance not as a reflection of your worth, but as an indictment of his character. Stand firm in the knowledge that your struggles are not a liability. They are an invitation to intimacy. And only those who are brave enough to accept that invitation are worthy of walking beside you. Pain reveals. Let it reveal the truth, and then have the courage to act on what you see.